Hello, my friend. I am so glad you are here. Wherever you are right now, take a slow breath. Tonight, I want to take you somewhere warm. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a fire. Small. Orange. Quiet. The wood cracks softly. The smoke rises into a dark sky full of stars. Beside the fire, a piece of meat rests on a flat stone. The fat begins to drip. The smell rises. Something ancient stirs inside you. You have smelled this before. Not in this life. But somewhere deeper. Because this fire, this smell, this moment, it is older than language. Older than memory. Older than almost everything we call human. Cooking is not just something we do before eating. Cooking is the reason we became who we are. It changed our bodies. It changed our minds. It built our cities. It started our wars. It created art, ceremony, love, and grief. And it began with an accident. An accident that happened almost 2 million years ago. This is Hitocast. And tonight, we follow the oldest story on Earth. The story of fire. Food, and what it means to be human. 2 million years ago. East Africa. A dry, open landscape. Tall grass. A hot wind. A group of early humans, not quite like us, moved slowly across the land. Their bodies were smaller than ours. Their brains were smaller, too. They ate raw food. Roots. Berries. Raw meat when they could find it. Raw food is hard. It takes hours to chew. It gives little energy. The body works very hard just to break it down. Then one day, something happened. Maybe lightning struck a tree. Maybe a wildfire swept through the grass. Nobody knows exactly. But somewhere, somehow, a piece of meat fell into a flame. Or a root was left too close to burning wood. And one of our ancestors, curious, hungry, reached out and picked it up. And tasted it. What happened next changed everything. The cooked food was softer. Easier to chew. Easier to swallow. The body could pull more energy from it with less effort. Over thousands of generations, something remarkable happened inside the human body. Our jaws grew smaller. Our teeth grew smaller. Our intestines shortened. All because cooked food required less work to process. And here is the part that still amazes scientists today. The energy saved by cooking did not just make our bodies feel better. It fed our brains. The human brain is the most expensive organ in the body. It uses 20% of all our energy. Raw food could not power a brain this large. Cooked food could. A scientist named Richard Wrangham spent decades studying this idea. He called it the cooking hypothesis. His argument was bold. He said cooking did not come after we became human. Cooking is what made us human. The fire did not just warm our food. The fire built our minds. Can you imagine? Every thought you have ever had. Every dream. Every song. Every word of love you have ever spoken. All of it, in some quiet way, began beside a fire 2 million years ago. But knowing fire and controlling fire are two different things. For a long time, our ancestors could only use fire when nature gave it to them. When lightning struck. When volcanoes burned. They kept the fire alive. They carried it carefully from place to place. Like something precious. Like something sacred. Because it was. Then, around 400,000 years ago, something changed. Evidence in caves in South Africa and Israel shows that early humans were making fire deliberately. Striking stones together. Using dry grass and wood dust. Creating something from nothing. This was not just a survival skill. This was the first technology. Think about that word. Technology. We use it today for screens and satellites and machines that think. But the first technology was a human hand. 2 stones, and the will to make light in the darkness. With controlled fire came something new. The hearth. A fixed place where the fire lived. And around the hearth, people gathered. They cooked together. They ate together. They stayed close through the cold night. The hearth was the first home. Not a building. Not a roof. A fire. And the meal shared around it was the first family table. For hundreds of thousands of years, cooking was simple. Meat over fire. Roots in ash. Seeds dried on hot stones. But then, about 12,000 years ago, everything changed again. The Great Warming. The ice retreated. The rains came. The land softened. In a region we now call the Fertile Crescent, stretching through modern Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Israel, something extraordinary happened. People stopped moving. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans had followed the food. Walking, hunting, gathering, always moving. But now, they noticed something. If you leave certain seeds in the ground, they come back. If you keep certain animals close, they give you food without dying. Farming was born. And farming changed cooking completely. Suddenly, people had grain. Wheat. Barley. Rye. And with grain came something nobody had planned. Bread. The first bread was not soft and fluffy. It was hard. Flat. Heavy. Ground grain mixed with water and cooked on a hot stone. But it kept people alive through winter. It could be stored. It could be carried. It could be shared. It was the most powerful food humans had ever created. And it did not stop there. Where there is grain and water and warmth, fermentation begins. The same accident that gave us wine happened with bread. Wild yeast from the air fell into a wet mixture of grain and water. The mixture bubbled. It rose. It changed. Sourdough was born. Nobody planned it. The bread just came alive. Bakers in San Francisco today use sourdough starters, living cultures of wild yeast, that are passed down like heirlooms. Some of those starters are over 100 years old. They carry life from another century. Can you imagine feeding something every day that your great-grandmother fed before you? With farming came villages. With villages came markets. With markets came trade. And with trade came spices. For most of history, spices were not just flavor. They were power. Pepper, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg. These small dried things were worth more than gold in medieval Europe. A single bag of pepper could pay a year's rent. Cities were built on the spice trade. Armies were funded by it. Entire continents were colonized because of it. Portugal sent ships around the bottom of Africa to find a sea route to India. Spain funded Christopher Columbus, who was also looking for spice routes when he accidentally found a new world. Think about that. The flavors in your kitchen today carry the weight of empires. The black pepper on your table was once so valuable that Alaric the Visigoth demanded 3,000 pounds of it as ransom when he captured Rome in 410 AD. A ransom paid in pepper. For a city. But let us go somewhere quieter now. Away from empires and trade routes. Into a kitchen. A small kitchen. Clay walls. A low fire. The smell of onions. Ancient Mesopotamia. 5,000 years ago. We have clay tablets from this time. Old tablets covered in tiny marks. Scientists spent years translating them. They expected to find laws. Property records. Royal decrees. Instead, they found recipes. 40 recipes pressed into clay 4,000 years ago. Lamb stew with leeks and garlic. Bird broth with herbs. A vegetable dish with onions and fat. These are the oldest written recipes on earth. And reading them, something strange happens. They sound familiar. The combinations of flavor, onion, garlic, fat, salt, herbs, are the same combinations your grandmother uses. The same combinations that make a kitchen smell like home. 4,000 years of cooking knowledge. Passed forward through every generation. Changed in every kitchen. The next time you sit in a restaurant and your food arrives perfectly. At the right temperature, at the right moment, that is Escoffier. Still working. 100 years after his death. But cooking was not only for the powerful. While kings ate from silver plates, something else was happening in ordinary homes. Something quieter. Something more important. Mothers teaching daughters. Grandmothers teaching grandchildren. Recipes carried not in books, but in hands. The exact pressure of a palm kneading dough. The smell that tells you the oil is ready. The sound a good broth makes when it simmers. This knowledge was never written down. It lived in bodies. In memories. In the feeling of doing something so many times it becomes part of you. And it was almost always women who carried it. For most of human history, the kitchen was a woman's world. Not always by choice. But that world held something real. A kind of power. A kind of love. The love that turns simple ingredients into something that makes a person feel they are home. No recipe book contains this. No chef school teaches it. It passes only one way. Hand to hand. Life to life. Today, we live in the strangest moment in the history of cooking. We have more food than any humans in history. In a single supermarket, you can find ingredients from every corner of the world. Spices that once funded empires. Fruits that once crossed oceans. Grains that fed ancient civilizations. All in one place. All in 1 hour. And at the same time, many of us have lost the knowledge of how to use them. More people today watch cooking on a screen than cook in their kitchens. More people today eat food prepared by strangers than food prepared with love. The kitchen, once the center of the home, has grown quiet. I do not say this to judge. I say this because the history of cooking is also a question. What do we want to carry forward? The ancient baker who learned sourdough from her mother carried something forward. The monk who kept a vineyard alive through a cold winter carried something forward. The Chinese cook who listened to the ingredient carried something forward. Each of them made a choice to keep something alive that could have died. Right now, somewhere in the world, a grandmother is teaching her grandchild how to fold dough. Somewhere, a young man is learning his father's recipe for the first time, writing it down so he will not forget. Somewhere, a fire is burning. And something is cooking over it. And the smell is rising, and someone nearby feels, without knowing why, that they are home. That feeling is 2 million years old. It is in you right now. It is the oldest thing we share. My friend. The history of cooking is not a history of restaurants or famous chefs or empires. It is a history of fire and patience and love. It is the story of humans deciding, again and again, to take something raw and make it beautiful. That is what cooking has always been. That is what it still is. The next time you stand at your stove, remember. You are not just making food. You are continuing something ancient. Something that began beside a fire 2 million years ago. And something that, because of you, will go on. Thank you for being here, my friend. Leave a comment and tell me what dish, when you smell it, takes you home. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, stay warm. Stay curious. And I will see you in our next story.